Please come to order. Good morning. Welcome to the Commissioners of St. Mary's County meeting this date, Tuesday, July 20th, 2021. I am Randy Guy, President of the Commissioners of St. Mary's County. I'd like to introduce the other commissioners. Sitting to my right, representing the 1st Commissioner District, which includes Ridge, Piney Point, St. George Island, Mr. Eric Coleman.
Good morning.
Representing the 2nd Commissioner District, which includes Leonardtown, Mr. Hollywood, Mr. Mike Hewitt.
Good morning.
Sitting to my left, representing the 3rd Commissioner District, which includes Charlotte Hall, 7th District, Golden Beach, and Mechanicsville, Mr. John O'Connor.
Good morning.
Representing the 4th Commissioner District, which includes Lexington Park, some of California, Great Mills, and some of Hollywood, Mr. Todd Morgan. David Weiskopf, our County Attorney and Acting County Administrator, is sitting at the table to my left.
Good morning.
Elisa Cassis, our Communications Director, is sitting at the table to my right.
Morning.
Amy Carter, our video media producer, is behind the glass. Please turn your cell phones off or on vibrate. At this time, I'd like to please stand, and we'll have the invocation and pledge by Commissioner Colvin.
Almighty God, we thank you, Father, that we are in this position to serve. We know that you have placed us here to serve our county, to serve our citizens. We ask that you guide us today during our meeting, that we would just be able to have clear heads and open hearts. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Coleman.
Thank you.
Next, I need the approval of the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
I have a first and second. All in favor? Aye. Any disapproval? Ayes have it. Next, we have a proclamation for the 31st anniversary of Americans with Disability Act. You got that right?
Very good.
Commissioner Colvin will be presenting.
So, this proclamation is going to be accepted by Lydia Beliofska, the chair of the Commission for People with Disabilities, if you'd like to come forward. And JW and Sherry, if you all would like to come forward too to join in up here, that'd be great. I'm just going to read it for you all. So, whereas on July 26, 1990, President George H. Bush signed into law the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, to ensure the civil rights of people with disabilities, one of the most compassionate and successful civil rights laws in American history. And whereas this legislation established a clear and comprehensive national mandate for the elimination of discrimination against individuals with disabilities and has sought to ensure respect as equal citizens with equal opportunities for the disabled. And whereas on the 31st anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, we celebrate and recognize the progress that has been made by reaffirming the principles of equality and inclusion and recommitting our efforts to reach full ADA compliance. Now, therefore, we, the Commissioners of St. Mary's County, do hereby recognize the 31st anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act and encourage public officials, business leaders, people with disabilities, and all St. Mary's County citizens to pursue the ADA's promise of equal opportunity and to celebrate the freedom that is envisioned with the passage of the ADA. Thank you.
Take a few minutes to say a few words.
Please.
Thank you, Commissioners, for recognizing the importance of the ADA. My name is Lydia Beliofska, and I'm the Executive Director of Southern Maryland Center for Independent Living. It's a nonprofit agency that works with individuals with disabilities, but also I'm the chairperson for the Commission for People with Disabilities here in St. Mary's County. As you know, the purpose of the Commission is to advise you in any matters of the ADA or compliance or any citizens who might have concerns regarding accessibility or their equal rights according to the ADA. We are very honored to be recognized today, as the ADA is so important for our individuals with disabilities in the county. And also I would like to take this opportunity to present or to remind you of the annual rewards program that the Commission puts on every year. We have 6 awards, 6 categories. And this year, we pushed it back a little bit. We are going to award the awards in October on the 5th, one of your meetings here on Tuesday. And the deadline for submitting the nominations is September 1st. Anybody, any citizen from St. Mary's County or other counties can nominate somebody from our county to receive the awards. We have, like I said, different categories: volunteer, notable employer, care partner award, innovative program, and the Vicki Brown Award that has 2 categories, which is a student than an adult award. But we would love for any citizen to nominate notable employers or individuals with disabilities in our county who do a lot to promote the rights and accessibility. So thank you so much again.
Thank you.
And have a wonderful day.
Thank you for all your work. Thank you. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Looks like now we move right into county administrator time. Mr. Wyckoff.
Thank you, Commissioner President Guy. First is the draft agenda for July 27th, 2021. First, it would begin at 9 o'clock with an invocation and pledge by Commissioner Hewitt, the approval of the consent agenda. 9:05, the proclamation for Tom Hodges Auto Sales 31st anniversary. 9:10 would be the commendation for Jack Curtis's retirement. Department of Emergency Services would do a presentation for the EOC partners, and then the decision for the Department of Human Resources LoSAP 2021 benefit change. And then at 9:45 would be county administrator time, 10:45 would be commissioner time, and then 10:55 would be closed session for legal advice, adjourn, and then at 2:30, MACO's annual brief would occur right here in this room. And then there are no meetings on August 3rd and August 10th. And start off is the Sheriff's Office, Department of Justice, Edward J. Burns Memorial Justice Assistant Grant Program for fiscal year 2021. Local solicitation, and we have Miss Lottie Bell and assorted staff coming up, Dietrich and Miss Marianne Thompson. Welcome.
Commissioners and Mr. Wyckoff.
Good morning, ladies.
This recurring grant opportunity from the U.S. Department of Justice, Office of Justice Programs, Bureau of Justice Assistance is for a formula-based grant. The amount allocated to St. Mary's County for FY22 is $17,075, excluding county funding. This is the first part of a two-part application process. Once the pre-application documents are submitted, we hope to receive an invitation to submit application documents. If approved, this grant funding would be used toward the purchase of a utility task vehicle, which would be used by corrections to maintain perimeter security and mandated rounds as prescribed by the Maryland Commission on Correctional Standards. Although there is no required match for this grant, approximately $5,000 in additional county funding would be needed to cover the procurement of the UTV. A budget amendment would be submitted at the grant award stage to adjust the project budget and realign funding within the Sheriff's Correction Division budget for the additional county funding needed. Your approval is requested to submit the related pre-application and subsequent application documents for this grant. We are happy to answer any questions you may have.
What would you use it for? No, I'm sure you ladies can tell us.
For perimeter searches.
Sure.
And have numerous, we have a basement on the right-hand side of the building to be able to distribute supplies. We could use that instead
So
of...
you'd use it on the campus?
Yes, on the campus.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I thought it was a vehicle so America can drive around.
That too, sir.
I thought that was what it was for.
Ms. Bell, didn't you say in your briefing that you'd be using it in accordance with the Maryland Correction Standards to do perimeter patrol?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you. I move to approve the FFY 2021 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Association Grant Program Local Solicitation Application Project US 2236 from the U.S. Department of Justice in the amount of $17,075 to go towards the purchase of a Polaris Ranger side-by-side utility task vehicle, UTV, to be used by members of the Sheriff's Office Correction Division, and authorize the Commissioner President to sign any related subsequent application documents and Sheriff's Office staff to submit electronically.
Second.
I have a first and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any disapprovals? Ayes have it. Thank you all very much for the brief.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Enjoy it.
Thank you. Next is the Department of Public Works and Transportation regarding the North County Farm Market update. And we have plenty. Morning.
Good morning.
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 Good morning, Commissioners.
No action required on this one. Just sit back and enjoy the show. In addition to Cindy Greb from RC&D, Drew Kelly is in the audience, and he's the project manager for DPW&T. So he manages the contract that we have with RC&D to get this project completed. So I think it'd probably be better just to start the PowerPoint, and Ms. Greb will run through that and take questions at the end. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
We appreciate you letting us give you a quick update, and I'll be brief on this amazing community project that's occurring up in Charlotte Hall. And I'd like from RC&D and our staff and all of your partners that we've been able to pull together to thank you for letting us be a part of this incredible project. I need to, there we go. Or should I look left or right?
You can orient yourself with this
You
screen
wanna
right
see
there.
it?
Does that help? There you go. And just tell me when you want your slide advanced.
Thank you. Well, the first slide obviously was one of the renderings of the market, year-round market building. That's approximately 5,100 square feet. That'll have vending space inside of it. It'll be operated year-round. It'll have a full kitchen, a restroom inside, but it also has access to 2 restrooms outside, 24 hours a day potentially. They may be locked in the evenings for anybody utilizing the site for either the trail extension or activities that are agritourism events, or even the seasonal market when they come over to that. Next slide, please. So if you look to the left, you'll see a very small picture of the approved site plan, and I'll run briefly through where we are with the status of the project. Next slide. So we went to Planning Commission in August of 2019. We started, 2019. We started the engineering and development plan. It took us till about October of 2020 to get all of the approvals, including state highway. We have our access permit. We have all of our permits in hand, grading permit included. Then we started the architectural components. Those have all been completed, permits have been issued, and the construction has already started. That started back in March of this year. Next slide, please. There you just have a few site pictures from March, well, this is April and May. Next slide, that's the value-added market. Then we have the seasonal market. The seasonal market is 14 stalls that will be open, hopefully to bring majority of the vendors from the library parking lot over into this facility. They'll have a secured storage area behind their site where they'll be able to store their wares and feel, very comfortable and have a gate and locked, and then whoever's managing the market will make sure that those vendors are taken care of and whatever's inside that storage area is taken care of. Next slide, please. What I had asked from Department of Economic Development was to provide us with a list for you all to understand what the capabilities and uses of this farmers market complex as it grows and evolves. Everybody is on the same page and understands what the capabilities are for this site. So if you've had a chance to look through that, do you have any questions on that slide?
I did real quick.
Yes, sir.
Will people be required to move from the Charlotte Hall Library? If they want to stay there, can they stay there?
It's my understanding, and Chris Castellanos is here, that there will not be the ability for any of the vendors to stay in that parking lot. Is that
Okay,
correct?
so we'll essentially eliminate this farmer's market at the library.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
As far as I understand, we're just doing the building component, design and engineering and building. As far as operations, that's going to
All right,
be
well, I just saw your
economic
first
development.
tab here. It said you're going to relocate
Yes, sir.
existing.
That's the intent.
All right,
We
thank
did
you.
work very closely with the county and the vendors that are currently there over the prior 2 years to make sure that we accommodated any interest, desires, or needs that they may have for that seasonal stall market. That was really their design. So they were very integral in the design and now the development of this project on that piece.
Okay.
Intent to move them. Next slide, please.
Yeah, if I could interject, that's certainly the approach that Public Works felt that we ought to take, and that's been our presumption going through, that site would be closed down at the library, and we would restore the site back to the way it should be, landscaping.
Again, this is just a continuation of the capabilities of the site. These are just a few. Once you all are able to go there and see this project, it's really whatever your mind wants it to be. And I think that as the community grows, the uses and capabilities of the site will also grow. It has room to expand, and it's very flexible. The only thing we are limited by is more the wetlands and the septic capabilities and capacity right there.
What I've just seen the last few days, most of the, you might say, the superstructure is already up.
Sir.
It's already up.
It's very exciting.
Look at it, too.
So I call it the framing is.
Good.
That's unbelievable how fast they've moved on it. Very good.
Thank you. Next slide, please. I just want to do a brief overview of the grants that we've either are in process of application stage or have been awarded for this project. And as you can see, the county and SMATIC did a grant application through Marbidco, and they've actually been conditionally awarded $210,000 for the tenant fit out of the kitchen component. So hopefully if we can get some intent letters from institutional users, we'll be able to take advantage of that $210,000 during the construction phase. We did also, RC&D applied for a $20,000 grant for the Hood Ansel system, and we've been conditionally approved for that. We're in the final stages of that application. It's not been granted yet, but hopefully we'll be able to get that during the construction phase, so it's not a retrofit. And then we also, RC&D, working closely with St. Mary's County, understand that there's going to be a need to do management components of the farmers market, not just this one, but potentially all the farmers market in this county. And we applied for a grant. We did 75% total of what we feel it would be for the cost to have a management company and or employees manage this new facility and or potentially the other farmers markets as a combined team. And we have been invited to submit, and we already did on Friday, the final application for that $92,000.
It's not already done through our DED, Donna Sassford and her group?
As far as management team and setup management?
Of all the ones around the county, I thought that.
Those are LLCs.
They're LLCs and they're individually run. So there is not an
Wouldn't it
entity
be-
or a component already set up, from what I understand. They've been working diligently to try and develop what that needs to be. So they've sent out RFPs, but I'll let Chris speak to that.
Good morning. Yeah, the homegrown market is run by an LLC, but the California Farmers Market and the North County Farmers Market and the library are just run by the county. But we do have an RFP out for management. We'd like to have one management entity handle all three markets. That's the
I
intent.
remember the people over at where the U-Haul is on Great Mills Road. They had offered to have a farmer's market out in that parking lot, but it never happened, and I thought that was a county decision.
That's not ringing a bell. with
Okay,
me.
no problem. Just go ahead. No, keep on.
So
You're doing great.
hopefully, we just submitted it on Friday. If we are awarded, then we did present to the county on Friday through their RFP process that we would offer to help administer this grant in conjunction with helping them find a management company to bridge the gap between now and next fiscal year, where hopefully there's a more established component to manage this and or potentially all the markets in place. So it kind of gives the county an opportunity to have some flexibility to figure it out as they go along without having a lot of exposure. So that grant would go through probably, if we're able to get it, I'd say March of next year, and then hopefully the market is up and running and be able to use the funds that are earned, the revenue from the current market, to finish out that management company or employee till the end of June. And hopefully by then there's something more, stable established. Then the final two grants, as you all are probably already aware, RC&D was awarded two $40,000 grants, one for towards the construction of the value-added market building, which we've already utilized, and one $40,000 grant towards the construction of the Three Notch Trail, which we've already used and sent to Soil Conservation District towards the future development of that trail, but we do need to utilize that this fiscal year, otherwise we have to give it back. Next slide, please. So here you have a picture of the Three Notch Trail. We have been working very, very closely with Soil Conservation District and MDE and Department of Public Works, and have come up with the least impactful component through the wetlands. MDE has approved it. We've gotten our letter of authorization from MDE. Soil Conservation District will submit it through Public Works and Land Use and Growth Management for the final permitting, hopefully this week or next. The only concern we have is how we're going to be able to fund it. There were some, the project was bid last fall. The funding was in place in the budget. However, as you all know, due to COVID and lumber prices, the new bids are coming in $40,000 to $50,000 more than what last fall was. The bids came in. We were not able to award the contracts because it was this year's fiscal funding, so as of July 1st is when we could award the contracts.
So basically, because the lumber's gone up so much,
Yes, sir.
we're sort of in a holding pattern, and you said $40,000 to $50,000?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Lumber's coming down, though.
That was my thought. So just so you know, also, RC&D is diligently out doing a donation campaign to try and raise funds, not only for fun stuff, site amenities, butterfly benches, and herb gardens, and all kind of fun stuff that'll make accent kind of the icing on the cake on this project, but we're also trying to hit the contractors to try and get some larger funding components to try and help with this trail. So it doesn't get pushed, because obviously, one, we have permits, but two, we have a $40,000 grant that we'd lose if we're not able to put that boardwalk in place. So we need to work closely to make sure we do that. Next slide, please. There you have the some of the wonderful renderings that the architect and our contractor have provided to us. On the left top, obviously, is when you pull into the site. You'll see the value-added market building on your left. You'll see the seasonal market stall building on your right. And then on the bottom left is, again, the value-added market, right side seasonal market. When those stall doors open on the front, it'll look like another set of double stall doors. So it'll be a beautiful, beautiful structure as you drive by Thompson Corner Road.
It looks really nice, but tell me, value-added market, what's that mean?
Chris? Sir? I have my own opinion.
I mean, look, I understand seasonal market, that's kind of what we got.
Yes, sir.
A value-added market.
That's where you take whatever's produced and make it into something more valuable, i.e. grapes into wine.
Exactly, right. You're
That's what
taking
you
the
do.
raw materials, what's grown on the farm, and you're doing something to it to make
You'll
another
make jelly
product.
out of it, pickles.
Oh, okay, so we're going to be
relish.
selling county preserves or whatever?
Yes, sir.
Yep. And meat can be sold there too, meat,
Egg
cheeses.
sausage, all that good stuff.
The
I
intent
thought
is...
that's not, I guess I'm confused, because I know we got the rack going on, we got the Amish, slaughterhouse going on, now we got the value-added market. Okay, so that's going to be the 12-month-a-year operation?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
6 days a week, 24, all year round.
Will it be?
They make what they call the cottage goods.
Correct.
Okay. Will it be expected to turn a profit, or are we just going to see how it goes?
Well, the management company will set the rates based on what they need to cover the cost to manage the market. So it's not, that management company, I guess they'll make a little bit of money, but the idea is not totally, big money maker for them. It's supposed to be what's it take to really cover the cost to run that market.
Well, the thing is to provide a service to the constituents of the county or the citizens of the county that they can buy local goods, right?
Right.
Meats. Yeah. No.
And just for your information, the homegrown market does have value-added products and fresh. The California market just has pretty much fresh produce and
No,
vegetables.
you're talking about the one down in
the Red Barn.
Third Gate?
Yep.
Yes.
Third Gate.
Gate 3.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for that explanation.
Next slide. So Mr. Dietrich joined us on Thursday, and I'm hoping he was happily impressed. So here you have some pictures from last Thursday. So you're actually standing in the storage area, or he's actually up on a big pile of dirt, in the storage area next to the stall market, and then the value-added market is in the background. Next slide, please. Again, value-added market. I think it's a little bit further along today. The next slide, please. This is the interior of the value-added market. If you look straight through, you're actually on the parking lot side towards where there's going to be parking for the biking or agritourism events. And you can see that there's actually a storage loft above on the one side of the building where whoever's managing the market or the vendors of the market will have ability to put stored goods up there. Next slide, please. This is the inside of the stall building. We met with the Amish and the vendors that are currently using the library parking area, and although they had originally decided they wanted to have individual stalls, 14 stalls in this very long building, they requested that all the interior walls get removed, anything that was not structurally required. So we had the architect do some minor modifications. We can always add walls, but we can't take them out without concern. So they wanted to be able to draw the customers into their stall and then have the next vendor tease them along so that they didn't just have to go in and out of each one of the stalls. So we were able to work that out.
That's a really good idea. Just like, the shanty town up there by Charlotte Hall, you sort of bounce back and forth and can see what's going on between the various vendors. And by not having walls, I think that keeps the feeling, for lack of a better word, going a lot better. So that's a cool idea.
So they want to tease them between vendor to vendor to vendor. And this corner stall is actually going to be, I think, a primo stall. It's beautiful. So when you get an opportunity to go up there, you should look at that stall. Next slide, please. There you go. Are there any questions?
I have one question for Chris. They had said 14 stalls, right?
Yes, sir.
How are these going to be distributed between, I call them the Amish Mennonite farmers and the English farmers? Is there going to be a first come, first serve somehow, or is it going to be?
Yes. Once we determine, once we open it up, it'll be first sign up. Whoever signs up first will be able to get a spot. But I think we can more than cover. I think there certainly aren't that many vendors up at the library right now.
How many are now Amish Mennonite? Do you have any idea? How many are there now?
How many are up at the library site now?
There are 12 stalls up there now.
There are 12 stalls there now.
12 different vendors up there?
And there's 12 different vendors at different times, but at each of the vendors' stalls, there may be more than one person's product there.
Okay.
That they sell for each other.
So we have
25 market applications.
25 applications now?
Yes.
Wow. Are we charging them a rental for these stalls, or is it?
There will be a charge, right?
There will be a charge.
Yeah, there'll be a charge, and it'll be more than they're paying now. I think they pay $25. Is that right? $25 now is what the fee is for the California market and for the North County Farmers Market in the library. But at the homegrown market, they pay a lot more because they have an indoor space. They have to cover their costs, heating, whatever it is. So it'll be more expensive, but it'll be reasonable. It'll be in line with what other places are charged throughout the state and throughout the country.
Yeah.
If demand exceeds capacity, how are you going to distribute it fairly?
It'll be a waiting list, and people will once you're in, you'll get to stay in. If you leave, then it'll be kind of the waiting list. But there'll also be some policies for who gets in and who doesn't get in. So somebody from St. Mary's would have precedence over someone from Calvert or Charles, for instance.
All right. Right. Yeah. Because you're right on the Charles County line right there almost. Yeah.
Close.
So looking at these artist renderings, which look gorgeous, is there enough parking?
Yes, sir. There's actually more than enough. We wanted to take into account for the 3-notch trail, so that we could draw everyone from the library parking, not just the farmers market component, but also to provide an opportunity for events, agritourism events, but also, bike races, whatever. I normally go to the John Baggett Park, and then ride my bike. So this will now be a wonderful hub and a safe place for people to park. And then we actually did the trail on both sides of the seasonal market to draw people not only to the restroom, but also to the parking lot area. So they can come in, buy their wares, have lunch. It's my thought to maybe have picnic tables and butterfly benches and
Sounds good.
wonderful stuff. So it's exciting, but... So hopefully in October, we're going to plan for an Oktoberfest, maybe Harvest Fall Fest with flowers and mums and
Do you
food
think,
and pumpkins.
is it realistic to be open in this October you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
It'll be done by then?
Sir. Yes, it will.
I hope so. That sounds great. Sounds great.
Having any horrible storms or anything.
I want to compliment you on getting the work with Marbidco and RIMFIF to get these grants, because that's something we usually go out of the way, but I think, having a different mindset to put this together, you've really been thinking outside the box to get that, and those guys giving us those grants, I know, whether I deal through Tri-County Council or the RIMPIF or Marbidco, it's really good what you're doing.
Well, your county staff has been amazing.
It's really good, so thank you.
Very good, very good. Very good job, very good job.
And don't hesitate to call me, stop by.
Well, thank you very much for the update and briefing. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I'm under subpoena for a matter that's going to be adjudicated in Charles County. I believe I am going to have to leave early. I don't know if you mind moving item G, since it's a very important item, and there's been much discussion to take care of that now.
Move item G forward?
If you don't mind, just because I'm under subpoena.
That's fair.
Is it okay with everybody? Okay. Let's move item G forward then, the Department of Finance American Rescue Act allocation decision. If Ms. Cudmore is
Ms.
correct.
Cudmore is here?
She's here. If you're ready for this.
Morning.
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 So this is a follow-up to last Tuesday's meeting. And you heard presentations from county departments and agencies and sheriff's office, health department, and today we are coming in front of you for direction. And also, I just wanted to let you know, now, I didn't say this last week or the weeks before, that the interim final rule has not completely been updated. We've got a preliminary version. There were questions that were going to be received through last Friday, the 16th of July, and now they're going to take that information and hopefully add some clarity to some of the eligible uses. So that is still more info that could be coming. I'm not sure if there's going to be additional uses. I just think at this point, they're going to try to, people are, I think, probably in the same boat that we are, trying to understand what the uses are and exactly,
Yeah, and I had a legislative meeting.
further guidelines, yes.
Had a legislative meeting with the Maryland Association of Counties last week, and they're expecting more guidance on how we spend this. There's no pressure right now to move forward with spending this now. Correct?
Correct. And some of the funding that you've already approved, which was in the FY22, the $992,137, the two outside agencies that were in there, the CSM and the Health Department, there are 5 positions. I did send out subrecipient agreements, and now they've come back, and I need them signed by Commissioner President Guy. And also at that point, they can start spending their money. And we have the Sheriff's Office nurse. I think they're still in the process of hiring, and also we have hourly nurses for county department.
Right.
So those can be expenses.
Please finish. Go ahead.
Right, those can be expenses that could be in or not be in. The report that is due August 31st to the U.S. Treasury, that's going to be for any expenses that come through July 31st. At this point, I don't really foresee having any because of where we are. And then it'll also be like maybe a preliminary where, what is the plans of the county might be a part of that August 31st. I still haven't seen what that report looks like. And then the quarterly reportings will actually start in October on all expenses.
I think when Commissioner Ghana attended that legislative meeting, like you said, everyone is still wondering what the parameters are. And they did sort of indicate through the NACO representative they're subject to change. So it'd be, if you could provide, my recommendation would be, could you provide us a brief on sort of where we are? But I don't think today we're really in a position to make a decision on this simply because the rules aren't finalized.
Right. And like I said, the comments, there was an initial guidance that came out on May 17th, the interim final rule. And then a part of that guidance, they also said that there'll be questions that'll be received, comments from counties or agencies across the country that will be received on any comments on the interim final rule. And now that timeline has passed, now I'm waiting for them to go through and review all the comments. I mean, there was actually something on Conduit Street yesterday saying that the counties, and they're going to start reviewing it and some of the comments. So I'm expecting, I don't know if it's going to be this week or when it's going to be, I would hope sometime in the near future, there'll be an updated interim final rule, which I'm hoping will provide clarity on some of the original uses or additional uses if they choose to provide additional uses.
And there's been a lot of discussion about expanding the uses. Small businesses have been pressuring restaurants and people because people don't want to go back to work, or pressuring because they don't want to shut down again.
Right.
So that's just, the things that I've been hearing from talking to other folks around the state.
Right. So I'm here as follow-up to last Tuesday's meeting. to provide direction, to receive direction from you on the American Rescue Act as presented on July 13th, or other eligible use outside of the presentation, with the interim final rule still being updated. Perhaps direction can be partial or wait until the final guidance is complete.
Well, I move to table our decision until you get further guidance, and you will pass it on to
I'll
Commissioner.
second if that's a motion. But what else are we supposed to learn? I mean, it seems that it's been pretty pinpointed as what we can use it for.
There's been information provided since March. Yes, and there's been updated to frequently asked questions and, the interim final rule, and a lot of counties have made decisions, a lot of counties have not made decisions. I even saw something, I think, from Anne Arundel County last week where they're actually putting a survey out to their citizens to try to find how they can spend the money or the best uses for the county. And I haven't heard any more about that. I know Charles County made a decision. I'm not sure the status at Calvert County. But I don't really look to see any further uses. I think it's just going to, hopefully they'll provide more clarity to the interim final rule. But I'm
Well, a disconnect for me is when I look at your list here, support the public health response. I get it. Address the negative economic impacts caused by that public health emergency. I get it. Serving the hardest hit communities and families. I get it. Investing in water and sewer infrastructure. I'm not sure I get it. My point gets to be is that I know Congress is talking about an infrastructure bill that could anywhere from, I don't know, $1 trillion to wherever the number may be. And my point is will we be able to use those kind of fundings for these types of things? I just get
I don't have that
confused on
information,
how-
right.
Well, maybe you can help some clarity later when it comes out.
right.
I think that's why waiting for final guidance on this is important, because if we allocate the money now, then we're done. We're not going to be able to pull it back and then move forward, and if there's additional uses that are there, we've misstepped. So also with that infrastructure bill, that could be covered, which that monies could be allocated elsewhere. So
Right.
I think that there's no rush to go ahead and spend this money. It's not an emergency, so it's better well allocated with critical thinking and processes behind it.
Right, and you do have more time to spend the money. I mean, it's not like when we got the CARES money last year, where we had less than a year to spend it, and then, of course, they extended their deadline. You have to encumber the monies by December 2024, and actual checks written, completed by December 2026.
So you have to spend it by the 20.
You should have it encumbered or spent by
First of the year,
2024.
2027. Sound like a long time away.
It is.
It is, but that gives us time to
Right.
through this.
So we have time.
So I'm not
I'm trying to
opposed
say.
to finalizing the plan at a later date, but there are some areas here where I think we would all pretty much be in agreement on, and it wouldn't hurt to get started. So could we do a portion of the funds? So say some funding to broadband so that Mr. Kelly can keep moving forward and keep going with that? Or are we better off to just totally wait altogether?
I just prefer we wait.
Okay.
Yeah, I see where you're going with it, but I think there's money that's allocated already. Those projects are moving forward. This would be just more. It doesn't stop him from planning those projects. So if we're earmarking those funds already, I don't see why IT couldn't say, look, we're going to start building out based on this funding being earmarked. I don't think any of us here are going to pull that money back.
Well, that money has not been earmarked at this point.
Okay, well,
It's put on the list as a request.
okay.
So there's been no decisions to use that money at this point.
Well, tell me, when do you expect guidance to come out? Is that like 2 weeks, 2 months?
I'm hoping it's soon. I did not see anything. I'll go back on the website, and I'll continue to go on the website and see if they have an idea when that final reporting will come out.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea, keeping Commissioner Colvin's point. Let's see what they're saying about how long the guidance is, and maybe there's something where we come back not approving it as a whole, but saying, okay, we understand that broadband isn't going to change, and if Mr. Kelly needs the money, then we can approach it on a piecemeal basis versus this overall approval process.
Right.
Project by project, if necessary.
Right.
Just let's look at this a little different.
There's areas that are a little bit more clear than other.
Right. And that's my point. So,
Right.
yeah, I think I can meet you halfway on that one, definitely.
Any other questions? I got a first and second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you very much.
Let us know as soon as possible, Ms. Cudmore.
Thank you. I'll let you know.
Thank you, Ms. Cudmore.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, back to D, right?
Yes, now we're back to D, thank you, which is the Department of Public Works and Transportation regarding the non-public school out-of-county student transportation. Mr. John Dietrich presenting.
Thank you once again. Ms. Link, you want to come up in case there are any questions on this? I think it's pretty straightforward, but we're prepared here to answer any questions, of course, that you might have. Last year, when COVID hit, the schools and our department talked and decided that we did not want to transport out-of-county students to the non-public schools because of the risk of COVID from the other counties. We do charge for that service, and that charge is based on, the way I understand it anyway, the actual cost that it takes for that bus driver to go up north or east to pick up additional students from either Charles County or over in
Calvert.
Yeah, Calvert.
I was thinking too.
The two Cs. At this point, again, conference between the schools, the bus operators, we think that that can be resumed, that service can be resumed, and we recommend that we do that. It was a well-used service, and it doesn't really apparently affect the budget. We will, if you allow us to reinstate that service, we will begin tracking. I couldn't find anything in our records, and neither could Ms. Swint, about how that $900 number was developed. We think it sounds probably about right, averages out. But again, so what we're asking is permission to reinstate transporting out-of-county students and charging the $900 that we previously charged for it. And then you will know that we will be tracking actual costs through the year to try to figure out if that 900 is the right number.
Okay. I had a few questions on this. First off, we are required to transport public school children to whatever school they need to go to attain the education they need to attain, because that service may not be available in St. Mary's County. Is that true?
We don't.
Talking about public school.
I can't answer that question.
Okay, well, I'm pretty used to it from a while back. That's what we used to say, is if we couldn't meet your needs in our school system, we had to send you to Summit School, which is outside of Annapolis, and different things like that. So, second question is, do other counties contribute to the cost of this? If these kids leave out of St. Mary's County and say there's 10, 12, 14 of them on this bus, do they pick up kids in Calvert or pick up kids in Charles?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Do they pick up kids in other counties, the bus, or do they just go ahead and go straight to whatever school they're headed for?
So they would pick up from what we would call a cluster stop. So for example, if we had, say, 4 students in Calvert County, we would pick them up in St. Mary's County at a cluster stop. They would be responsible for getting to that parking lot or designated location. The bus would pick up those 4 students at the cluster stop at one time and then continue on the route to the school or to the transfer.
Would Calvert and Charles pay part of this cost, is my point.
I don't believe they contribute to the cost. It's solely for the parents, and I've always been told that the parents pay for it because they do not contribute to St. Mary's County taxes.
Interesting. Well, I know the Honorable Louis Goldstein, God rest his soul, in 1939 proposed a law that said St. Mary's County will, transport its parochial school kids on public school buses at a public expense. And it's one of the few counties, if the only county in the state of Maryland that does that. I'm not opposed to it. Hey, it is what it is. But I do know kids have to go to like Summit School outside of Annapolis, and typically their parents will transport them, and they're reimbursed for that. Have we looked at that opportunity for just reimbursing
I don't believe so.
Okay. Well, I'm not opposed to this. It's, but the deal is it is breaking even. Just doesn't seem fair. We have to transport parochial school children per something that happened in 1939, which is fine, and we have to transport public school students, but the public school students get transported out of county for free, and these children don't. All right, that's my statement, sorry.
Okay, but to speak to that note, St. Mary's County does not, in non-public school bus, transport the students outside of the county.
We understand that, but Commissioner Hewitt says
But we do public school.
we take the public school kids up the road for special needs and concerns with no additional charges, yet we charge to bring non-county students into the county to go to school here, correct?
Well, no, we're charging parochial school kids to go out of county.
These are non-public school
Not doing
students.
for, we're not doing it for
The public school kids.
Public school.
Who especially have to go way up the road.
Yeah, I know, excuse me. But it seems like the Calvert and Charles should kick in too if we're picking up their kids. But again, it's not enough money to make a big deal over. It's just something that if you can keep an eye on it and keep us, how'd they figure this out kind of thing.
Sure. Commissioner Hewitt, I'm not sure I still understand.
Why do these kids have to pay and public school kids don't?
Okay, so why do
Parochial
non-public
school
schools from Charles County coming into our schools in St. Mary's County have to pay?
I thought we were transporting out of county.
No, we only transport
Picking
from
up kids in other
county.
counties and bringing them here
Right, then,
to go to a private school.
and I guess my point is, how come they're not paying their, all right, just sometime offline, we'll talk about this.
Yes,
and
sir.
you can help me understand it.
Let me take a crack at it one more time.
No, it's
So
not necessary.
this is a special program that's based on that legislation from 1939, and it is just something that was devised to bring equity because the Catholic parents are paying county taxes, and in this county, that was recognized. It's a problem all over the country, and virtually no one else does what St. Mary's County does, which is to bring equity to the Catholic or Amish or Mennonite families. So we transport those students that are in-county to their in-county schools. We don't transport them anywhere else. We don't take them out of the county. The students that want to come to St. Mary's County parochial schools, we've got this program that we feel is a wash financially that allows that to happen. We're going to check to make sure it's a wash, though, so that we're fiscally responsible. I hope that helped.
Well, I'm going to move to approve and authorize Commissioner President to reinstate out-of-county student transportation for the non-public school students attending private schools in St. Mary's County.
Second.
I have a first and second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you very
John,
much.
one other thing before you leave here. I got a call from the administration at the Taylor Farm. Do you know anything about them? They had requests for transportation. It's a long-term kill facility in Bushwood.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
familiar.
Have you had somebody contact you?
And Ms. Swint's I received a call, and Ms. Swint received a call, and
Okay,
we've been working
they've requested
on
from me on that, so I just
issue.
Okay.
Apparently, they were receiving transportation using federal funds that they weren't actually eligible for.
Okay.
There may be some of the people who are in the facility that are eligible, but the whole facility is not eligible.
Okay, so some individuals can call up and for transportation to a doctor's appointment, or whatever, if they're handicapped or whatever. And
They just need to complete an application, and that was the conversation that I had with, I don't recall her name at the moment or her title, but I believe she was the facility manager or director.
Okay.
So I explained to her that we could no longer run private charters to and from that location. It was against federal regulations with the federal dollars and grant monies that we receive, and that I invited her to have her residents apply for service.
Each resident has to do the
Each resident
application.
has to apply and be approved for service, and I
I'll
asked her
pass
to
that on too. If you're already talking with her, that's fine. That's
Yes.
good. It's
Forward
been a couple
emails
weeks
with
ago that I talked to her.
patient.
Okay, great. I appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah, another facet of that is, so a discussion that Allison and I had yesterday is, should we come to you to see if we could buy small buses or minivans that are wheelchair equipped with local money, then we can actually do a service like that. The problem is we can't use federally funded buses unless everyone on the bus is eligible. And if we would come to you to buy a bus with local funds, that would allow us to do something like that.
Okay.
I think that would be good if we could find some kind of flexibility to be able to help them out, because we don't want the letter of the law to stand in the way of the spirit of the law and what we're trying to do here and
Yeah,
help
whatever you
them
find
out.
to do this, because I got a feeling we're going to get more and more of these facilities coming up, and they're going to need some kind of transportation asset that they can't provide. So I appreciate whatever you can do to give us some heads up and what we can possibly do to fill in this gap.
I agree.
Yeah, Taylor Farms is also one of the sites of our wetland mitigation projects. So they allowed us to construct a wetland on their property that helped mitigate, I don't remember if it was FDR or the airport. At any rate, they're good people.
They've helped us out, now we can help them. How's
Yep.
that? That sounds good to me, yeah. We need to do that, and more is going to happen. You're going to find it in this coming census that our aging population is getting bigger in St. Mary's County, and more of these facilities are going to,
Simple
I'm
as
part of it
statement.
too, so it's going to happen. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Department of Economic Development with the expansion of Mattaponi Rural Legacy Area. And Ms. Donna Sasser and Chris Casalemas.
This is information only type of thing, okay.
Correct, Commissioner President Guy. This is an information-only item. I'm joined by Donna Sasser, our Ag and Seafood Manager. So today we wanted to make you aware of a proposal to greatly expand the Mattaponi Rural Legacy Area. Our department received an intent to request an expansion of the Mattaponi Rural Legacy Area from Southern Maryland Resource Conservation and Development, Cindy Greb's group, in March of 2021. Since then, in discussions with the Navy has also indicated interest in expansion of the Mattaponi boundary to further protect Naval Air Station, Patuxent River, and Wolf from encroachment. So what's happened is RC&D has talked to most of the major, I think probably all the major property owners in the existing Mattaponi, and those are either, some of those property owners are interested and they're scheduled to have their land put in perpetual easement. Others are not interested, so next few years they'll run through that money, but then they'll be kind of to the end of that existing Mattaponi. So the idea is that Navy is greatly interested in expanding around the Webster outlying field, and they want additional protection from encroachment. So in discussions, we've come up with a draft map, which is in your packet. That map will for sure change. This is just an idea of what it would probably what it could look like. It's kind of patchy because we've tried to cut out parcels that don't need to be in. It does need to be a contiguous map, and even though it doesn't look like it, it is a contiguous map. It's always connected. It's in some place. But there are certain property owners that are not affected at all. If you're under 6 acres, you're not affected. If you're greater or equal to 35 acres, you're not affected. But even though some people are not affected by this, like if you have a 1 acre lot, we've told people when we've done expansion in the past, you've got 1 acre, this doesn't affect you at all. And they say, well, I don't want to be in it. It doesn't, they're concerned. So we've had to go back and revise maps in the past because people are concerned, even though this doesn't affect them at all. So the idea, the process is for It's initiated by a request by Maryland RC&D to the Rural Legacy Board. The Rural Legacy Board then forwards a request to the Maryland Board of Public Works, which has final decision authority, and a letter of support from the commissioners of St. Mary's County for expansion of the boundary must accompany Southern Maryland RC&D Board's request to the state. So as I mentioned, this expansion will more than double the size of the rural legacy area. We plan to do a public meeting, or maybe more than one public meeting with property owners to explain what this means to them, the opportunities. There are many property owners, as I mentioned, in this expansion area who've approached RC&D and said, we're interested, we have a big chunk of land, we're interested in being a part of this program. So we think we have a lot of interest. Of course, the Navy's interested, but we want to make sure that the property owners understand. So we'll meet with the property owners. We'll do a little more refinement of the map, and then we'll come back with a final map to the commissioners. And
Mr. Castellinos, I think it would be very helpful if you explained your scoring process. So people would say, hey, look, I think I'm a candidate.
I agree.
What's the scoring? You know, and I end up with 311 acres, but I'm number 15, where 70 acres got number 2. So your scoring, you know, it's not based upon solely the acreage, I'm assuming.
Yep, that's a good suggestion, Commissioner Hewitt. And also remember that this program is voluntary. So if you're a property owner, you have no interest in this program, that's fine. If you have an interest and you want to put your land in perpetual easement for some funds, you can do that. It's totally voluntary. But it's a good idea to talk about how they're ranked. And Donna knows that very well, and she can do that.
So with Rural Legacy, it's very much different. The Maryland Ag Land Preservation Foundation has a scoring system that we use. It's called Land Evaluation Site Assessment. You all get that each year, the end of June, for the MALF properties. With Rural Legacy, it's a bit different. I think so far, and maybe Ms. Greb should be the one to address this, it's not been so much about, it's been the closer you are to the base. Those have been the properties that have been focused on first, and as you go further out. But sometimes it's funding factors, and again, a lot of it comes back to what significance does the property have for the Navy in particular in the Rural Legacy Program.
Well, you know, I think it's a great program because it obviously protects the Navy. It gives the landowner some kind of remuneration for not developing or having potential to develop their property. But I just think it's somewhat unfair to people who are like in the ACUs already. Say those buildings in Lexington Park that can't be redeveloped if they're in the ACUs, you know, and it just tends to make that Lexington Park area or some parts of it less desirable because they can't just, you know, tear the building down and change it to something else because there's ACUs out there. It's always been a disconnect for me that we'll take care of these people who have farm properties, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. But we have these commercial properties impacted, too bad.
So we have had many discussions about that in our office. We have, in the past, put a CIP project forward that was called Urban Legacy. Right. So the Rural Legacy Program is the rural properties. It's a program that the county has put matching funds towards county funds, state funds, and Navy funds. There is no state urban legacy program out there that we're aware of. So if we wanted to create a program in St. Mary's County, it could be matched with Navy funds if you were looking at ACU's properties, but the county would have to be the other sole matching source. So again, it's something we've discussed because I guess personally I feel the same way, is that if you are, we have some large properties that are under ACUs that can't be developed. And then you also have small properties and houses, commercial properties that can't be redeveloped. So I guess in some ways this is similar to years ago, the Flat Tops program. You know, that was an initiative that was taken on. But I'm going to say it doesn't fall under the realm of agriculture, but again, it's a discussion within economic development that I have brought forward over the years, that there should be some compensation and thought about the urban, and we called it Urban Legacy Program to assist in those, in Lexington Park where properties are under the AQs.
Now, do these programs also exist in, say, like Aberdeen or other areas where they have large military installations where they have to protect land around that installation?
Yes.
So it's kind of a statewide program.
Actually, for the Navy, this is really a national program.
Okay, good.
For not Rural Legacy, again, where we utilize Rural Legacy, which is a state program, but the whole idea of protecting property with REPI funds, Navy funds, federal funds, is all across the country. And we are, even for Maryland Ag Preservation Foundation, MALF, we're still looking at MALF becoming a partner and being viable so that we have more of our farms in Chaptico 7th District area that are impacted by Dahlgren to also be able to receive funds for those to be protected.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Any other questions, Commissioners?
No.
Thank you. Thank you all very much for the information. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is the Department of Economic Development again regarding a property tax credit incentive for Coherent Technical Services, Inc. for expanding employment. Mr. Castellanos presenting.
Thank you, Mr. Weiskopf. Today, we're asking commissioners to approve granting CTSI, Coherent Technical Services Incorporated, a property tax credit under our new and expanding business tax credit incentive program. As you know, the commissioners approved this program in 2017. The property tax credit allows businesses in certain industries that will create 10 or more jobs to receive a property tax credit for up to 10 years. The following industries are targeted: commercial application of defense technologies, cybersecurity, aerospace and aviation, unmanned autonomous systems, agriculture, aquaculture, and value-added agriculture products, technology, and manufacturing. The incentive applies to both businesses that construct new facilities and those that are in existing buildings, and they can own or lease. In the case of CTSI, they lease the property, and that's allowed under this program. CTSI is expanding their fabrication, production, and manufacturing business in St. Mary's County. They're making a large investment to support upcoming contract awards for the mining industry, railroad industry, and shipboard electronic systems. They'll be investing in new staff and new equipment, and they believe they will hire 50 full-time employees over the next 3 years in St. Mary's County, and they've already hired 4 of those people. So because they don't pay property taxes directly, the entity that owns their building is Hollywood Group LLP. We have an agreement in your packet where they say they will take the property tax credit that the county gives them and reduce CTSI's lease rent by that same amount.
Is that enforceable?
It is. I'll defer to, we've done this once before.
We have.
For them before.
Yeah, for CTSI, right, for the Hayden.
The Hayden property on 235, CTSI applied, and
Yeah, I get it, but suppose someone says, hey, my taxes or something gone up, I can no longer pass this on to you. I mean, what's the mechanism there?
Well, it's an agreement that we have with them, and they've signed it, so to me, it would be an enforceable contract.
Okay.
Hopefully, we don't get to that point.
Well, it
but-
just seems like it would be, if someone's going to add 50 jobs, obviously they're expanding, and thank God.
Right.
But why wouldn't they want to go out and buy their own piece of property, build their own facility, and appreciate this tax return on their own? I mean, look, I just want to make sure that if a landlord decides, I'm getting it, but I'm not going to give it, there's some mechanism involved to help that.
We certainly would try, certainly.
did we,
And-
when CTSI did this the first time, did we verify that they created enough jobs to meet the criteria on the old Hayden property on 235?
Yes, Commissioner Morgan, they did create the jobs they said they were going to.
I will say that CTSI has some very interesting things developing, and since they took over the building I used to have my office in, it's going to be interesting to see how they progress.
And Commissioner Hewitt, there are many, many companies, I think most of them tend to lease around here. There aren't a lot of companies that buy their own buildings.
I think they do that until they get established. And these guys have been around for a little bit of time now. I mean, what, at least 15 years? Do you know, Todd?
Excuse me?
How long do you think CTSI has been around?
They've been around 20 years. They're spin-off from Air Inc.
And I guess my point to you is that they are a people do lease going in because, you're not sure.
Right.
But once you establish your foothold and you tend to repeat the contracts or you tend to grow, but it's their business plan, not mine.
This
I
is,
move to enter into the memorandum of agreement between the Commissioners of St. Mary's County and Hollywood Group LLP, stating that Hollywood Group LLP shall reimburse Coherent Technical Services Incorporated the amount equivalent to 100% of the property tax credit actually received for the real and personal property tax on the property leased to CTSI, and to have the Commissioner present sign all related documents.
Second.
I have a first and second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Castellanos.
Thank you, Commissioners, and that ends the County Administrator time.
Okay, we move right into Commissioner's time, and we'll start with Commissioner Morgan today.
Well, thank you, Mr. Guy. It's been a relatively quiet week. We've had a couple sad passings this week. Jimmy Bannigan, the 7th District, one of the original 7th District optimists, died about a week and a half ago, and his service was yesterday. And I think of the original 7th District optimists, there's 2 or 3 still living. So it shows you the longevity of all the things that he did. And if you know anything about oyster cans, probably one of the greatest collections in the world of oyster cans Jimmy Bannigan has, or had, I'll put it that way. But really sad to see him pass. And Tom Miser, a longtime Lexington Park resident, worked at Raley's store and then a contractor and did a lot of sailing. He passed away also. So it was a bookend of funerals yesterday with Jimmy in the morning and Tom in the afternoon. On Sunday, Commissioners Guy and Hugh and I attended the Tesla electric charging port opening over at Harris Teeter. Interesting event. Well over 100 people, I think, were probably there. Most of them, quite frankly, came from out of the area. A couple drove down from Atlantic City. A guy came from California, etc. And we're seeing the evolution of a new industry. And we'll just see where the thing goes over time.
Did he come from California on one charge?
No, it took him like 3 to 4 days to get here, he said. Yeah. And lastly, next week, the Olympics start. A great time for American patriotism, a great time to honor our country, and remember that we are one nation under God, and we should truly respect the honor and privilege to represent the United States of America in these Olympic Games, and use it as a venue to show true allegiance to supporting the United States. With that, thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. So I also want to send my condolences to the Bannigan and Heiser families. It's always tough to lose a loved one, so my condolences to you all. I also want to give my congratulations to 2nd District Volunteer Fire Department Rescue Squad on their 70th anniversary banquet. They held that over the weekend, so congratulations to all of you. It's a lot of hard work. The building is looking incredible as it's going up. It's going to be a really good building for the community, for the Fire Department Rescue Squad, so great work there. Important to note, this week is the Maryland Buy Local Week. So buy local. There is so much incredible stuff that we're talking about farmers markets this morning, but if you don't regularly go to one of our farmers markets or shop from one of our local farm stands, you really should check it out this week. Get yourself some Trossback peaches. There's nothing better in the world in the middle of summer than a Trossback peach. There's just so much great stuff that's made or grown right here in St. Mary's County. You definitely want to take advantage of that. This morning, Jeff Bezos has a lot of money. He used some of it to fly into space. If I had a lot of money, I'd fly into space too, but he did that. But more noteworthy, some of my friends sitting up here at the board, I don't remember this, but they probably remember. In 1969, the Apollo 11 mission landed on the moon today. So it's a pretty incredible day in history. And with that, I'm done. Thank you.
Commissioner Hewitt.
Well, this past week, we appointed the redistricting committee. I had to change my selection after it came out that the meeting schedule. There was recently some criticism that maybe we had stalled this committee, and I don't think we did. I think we had this impression that there wasn't much to do, or there wasn't anything really to do until they got the information. And what that's done, it's kind of given us a disservice. People wanted to serve on this board. And I had initially appointed Linda Limas. I know Linda very well from Lexington Park Rotary Club and our efforts with the Feed St. Mary's Food Bank, and she's a wonderful person and was my pick. But once she got the list of meeting schedule, because it has to be done by the 31st and the timeline has been so condensed, there's a lot of meetings, sometimes twice a week, 6, 7 meetings a month, maybe more, depending on what they have to do. So Dr. Patricia Richardson, former superintendent of schools, was a superintendent when I was on the Board of Ed 20-some years ago, had agreed to take her place. And thank you, Dr. Richardson. You'll be a welcome addition to that board. But my point is that these people have a lot of work to do, and they don't have much time to do it. Now, we're very hopeful that we get this census information right after Labor Day, sometime early in September. But Lord knows it's going to be a big undertaking. And for those people who have volunteered and agreed to serve on that group, welcome, thank you, Godspeed, good luck, whatever other adjectives I can use to help you get to where you need to go, because it's a big job. And it needs to be done fairly, and it needs to be done with compassion for everybody out there so everybody has a chance to feel represented. There was 2 events last week that made me glad to be an American. First was the Tesla event. Not that it was the best of the 2, but it was a good event. And what made it so unusual was it's here you had all these people buying all these electric cars. Now, I use the term, I'm an old motorhead. What I mean by that is my dad was a mechanic, had a gas station, had it since I was 11 years old, and Lord knows I did it all through my high school, junior high school time. Thank God I got away from it while I went to college, but then I came back and ran it for 38 years. I never, ever thought we would find a time when an electric car could make it, say, across country or long distances like a fossil fuel car, like an automobile. But that technology has developed. And as an American, I'm proud to say there's people like Elon Musk, people like Steve Jobs, God rest his soul, Bill Gates, this guy Zuckerberg, I mean, whether you like him or not, or Bezos, or whether you like these people or not. But they're a testament to American ingenuity and what you can do here in America, where if we take the reins off and say, hey, go at it, build that better mousetrap, we're going to build it in this country. And also it allows us to reduce our footprint. I personally have ordered a new car, but I may cancel that and look at these Teslas. They were pretty impressive. The last thing is last Wednesday night, we had a storm brew up. Now, of course, I was out and doing some errands, and my wife asked me to pick up some stuff at BJ's. I did. I come out, and boy, the wind was blowing, and the rain was raining, and the hail was coming down. It was, well, maybe it's climate change. I don't know. But it was a heck of a storm. So I started home, and of course I called my wife and said, look, I'm a little backed up. So she said, well, be careful, a lot of limbs down in the yard. Well, as I got home on Sodley Road, there were 5 big trees blocking me from getting to my house. Now, I got chainsaws like probably everybody else does, but they were at the house. And sure enough, couldn't get home. So what I did is called 911. Thank God, some people from Hollywood Volunteer Rescue Squad showed up. But they had their brush truck, and they had some equipment, but they did not have the equipment that you needed to move these big trees. So they said, Mike, you're going to have to call the county. I had already called the county, but look, other people had needs too. This storm hit the county, there was trees down all over. So look, we just had to take care of ourselves. So I called my neighbor, Keith Dugan, good man. And I said, Keith, I can't get home and you can't get out. How about, you got a chainsaw? Yes, he does. So he got his brother, Brian, got his nephew, Michael, and they started at their end working towards me. Well, lo and behold, these wonderful people who have moved into St. Mary's County, Jeff and Sue Wanamaker, they bought a Dr. Salmony's horse farm, and they've done a wonderful job converting it. Well, Jeff shows up with his chainsaw, sees what we're dealing with, and says, this isn't going to be big enough. Goes home and gets some type of piece of equipment that he owns to work on his farm, come back, cleaned all those trees out, cleaned it all up for the neighborhood. It was like, didn't want any money, didn't expect any money. We all chipped in. There was probably 10 of us, but it was a real community event trying to get ourselves in a position where we can get in and out. We knew the fire service, the rescue squads, the emergency services were probably overwhelmed. There were other people with greater needs than ours. But this was a community effort. Really made me proud to be an American and to be from St. Mary's County. Thank you, Jeff and Sue Wanamaker. All right, thank you.
Thank you all. I, too, attended Tesla. I was really impressed that this company is investing so much, not only in our county, but throughout the country. And they put up 8 of these supercharge stations at Harris Teeter. And I thought maybe it was a standard, but talking to the people that owned them, or that people that owned the cars there, they said these supercharged, they can plug their car in and within 20 minutes, supercharge their battery, full charge. Where at home, it might take them 3 to 4 hours with the normal charge that you have at your home. So I'm impressed that this company is investing throughout the country, but then the same thing, it's a marketing thing for them to sell more vehicles. There's no doubt about it. That's not the reason why they're doing that, but I'm sure that costs them quite a bit of money to do that. And our local SMECO is investing with us to put in, I think we're putting 8 total in throughout the county. And so there's no doubt in my mind that we're heading for that kind of electric vehicles everywhere, the way it's going. And I don't own one yet, but I'd be interested in buying one. But of course, the one I looked at, this one guy had I think the XL, which was the biggest, most expensive vehicle there, was $92,000. But I was impressed when at the end, he pulled out his phone, pressed a button, and the car started up and pulled out of his parking spot towards him. He stopped it, opened all the windows, opened the top up, the 2 doors sprung open, the 2 gull doors at the rear sprung up, and I said, you got to be kidding, all with his phone. Just absolutely amazing, the technology that's already there in these cars. And that particular vehicle has a range of, with one charge, 420 miles. That's unbelievable. That kind of storage now exists, and it's only getting better. So I would say that kind of thing is not long. Of course, some of them have been out. My family's been a user of Toyotas, and we've had a Prius for some time now, and I think the 3rd generation now, and they're a hybrid, but they still get about 60 to 65 miles to the gallon, and they do get up to speed. They're slow sometimes, but you know we've gotten to pretty high speed with those things. But anyway, it's a time it's going to happen. There's no doubt that we're in that framework now, and eventually we're going to be getting more and more into electric vehicles. My heart out to the Bannigans in Sub-District. I say this man was a stepping stone for all the developments down there as far as our various nonprofits in 7th District, and I'm sorry for the great loss. Last week was a very hot week. We were in the 90s, and this week is going to be high 80s, 90s, so be careful with yourself, with your pets, and everything else. And definitely the stands are wide open with all the different vegetables and everything, and locally with me, it's just unbelievable, all the things that are available now. And so do shop local and do the best you can to help our local farmers as we continue to expand our markets. It's great to eat some fresh corn, and especially the tomatoes. I love tomatoes, so the fresh tomatoes are all good. With that, I need a motion to enter into closed session.
Second.
Have a first, second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you all.